Good evening, everybody. We welcome all of you to the Rainmakers podcast season 3 premiere. When we started the podcast, we promised you that we will bring in inspiration and ideas from leaders all around the world. And that's exactly what we have done over the past 2 seasons. And what better way to kick off with a leader of such great repute? Here, we begin the season 3. Donna, take it over.
Absolutely, Yoga. Just as you said, what a fantastic way of starting our season 3 with the BNI founder. Well, in fact, two of us are part of BNI, and we have, in fact, seen how amazing, how beneficial this organization is, especially during the pandemic. We closed billions of business, whereas the rest of the world is complaining about the circumstances and being negative and mourning over what is happening around. So, kudos to you, Dr. Ivan Meissner. We are extremely honored and privileged to have you here with us.
Well, thank you very much. What a great opening. That was great graphics. I feel very impressed.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
It's an amazing pleasure and an honor to speak to somebody of your repute and who has built so much, and to be honored as the humanitarian of the year by Red Cross. I think that trumps everything for us. So amazing. For the next hour, we are here to learn and also to share your vision and ideas and tips and tricks on networking and business building. Donna?
Yeah, and not to forget, Yoga, we have a gift to all the viewers today. There you
The
go.
book
Yoga has
Dr.
it.
Ivan Meissner has co-authored. Anybody who is, we have about 15 to 20 books to give away. So what we would suggest you is to send us a good question on whatever the platform you're watching it, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, and we will be able, if your question is featured, we will send you across the book, an amazing read. We have started to read and we could not keep it down. So yeah, you can while learning something from Dr. Ivan Meissner, you can also win a book that he has co-authored. Donna?
Of course. Let me straight away kickstart the podcast with the first question, Yoga. Dr. Meissner, you founded BNI in 1985 out of the need to grow your consulting business at that time. So today, BNI has grown to over 10,000 chapters in over 75 countries in the world, becoming the largest business network organization in the world. Could you take us down the memory lane?
Well, first of all, I'm humbled by what BNI has become over the last 36 years. I mean, it's truly been an amazing ride, and it's exciting that we're able to help so many people. As you said in the opening, during this crazy period in our history, so many businesses are struggling, and to see our 283,000 members generate in the last 12 months, over 18 billion with a B, over 18 billion US dollars worth of business for each other has been amazing. I started BNI because I was looking for referrals for my consulting practice. And we don't teach this in colleges and universities. And so it was, most people were really struggling with how do you generate referrals. I went to a lot of networking organizations that were really mercenary. Everyone was trying to sell to me. And I would leave those meetings feeling like I'd been slimed and I needed to go home and get a shower because everyone was selling to me. Then I went to these other groups that were totally social. It was happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. Nobody was doing business. I didn't like either of those groups. What I wanted was to find a group that had a focus on business but wasn't mercenary, and a group that focused on relationships but wasn't totally social. And I couldn't find one, so I formed this one group. I'd like to tell you I had this vision of a global organization, but I formed this one group that had a focus on business, had a focus on relationship, and the glue that would hold it all together is our principal core value of givers gain. This idea that if I help you, you'll help me. We'll all do better. And it just took off. It's really amazing to me how it's grown over the years.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's
Amazing.
amazing. That's amazing. And
Fantastic.
something that I really love about, I know that BNI has so many core values, and the most fundamental is givers gain. So kudos to you, Dr. Meisner, again, for coming up with such an amazing philosophy that really paved the way and that gave the foundation to this amazing institution called the BNI. Yoga?
Correct. Yep. Dr. Ivan, as an ardent networker, what would you say is the impact networking has had on your professional and personal life? We have heard about the greatest referral that you ever got. So, yeah,
Well, look, I think networking has had a big impact on a lot of businesses, despite the fact that you hear sometimes that people don't like to network. The truth is, we did a survey a few years back that was published in one of our books. It was in a book on the difference between men and women and how they network. We surveyed 12,000 people around the world. Of the 12,000 people, 91% of them, over 91%, said that networking has played a role in their success. When have you ever seen 91% of any group of people agree to anything ever? So I think it's not only made a major impact in my life and my professional career, but I would argue that it has made an impact. Networking, relationship building in terms of a business context has made a difference in most people's lives. And maybe not early in their career because they don't quite understand how to do it, because we still don't teach this in colleges and universities. But the more experienced you get in business, the more you recognize that building a powerful personal network is the best way to build a business.
correct, correct. That's true. That's true. So, like most of us, whenever we ask somebody who mentors us or whoever, they say like you network for ideas, you network because they could give you business, or you go to a networking session so that you build a set of people who could help you, and it is all about us and all of that, right? We can learn ideas, we can improve our business, and so on and so forth. But as you correctly said, there are different groups for different purposes, and BNI focuses on one specific area where it brings networking in a very happy environment with friends while doing business in a very strict um, agenda where
Yeah.
we are supposed to do business, and so on and so forth. Dr. Meisner, what would you say is the greatest referral that you have received, and how will you be able to share some examples of how through referrals people have grown and succeeded over the years?
Well, there's a lot in that question. Let me break it down a little bit. Let's start with there are different kinds of ways to network, and I first recognized that when I read a book back in the early '80s by John Nesbitt called Megatrends. And John in there talks about different ways of networking, particularly knowledge networking, to get together and share ideas and resources is a form of networking. And so I have talked about that and drilled down a little bit deeper in many of my books, including Networking Like a Pro, where I talk about the different kinds of networks. There are knowledge networks where you share information and resources. There are service networks, service clubs like Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis. There are casual contact networks like a Chamber of Commerce. And then, of course, there's a strong contact network like BNI,
Yeah.
where we get together every week and our primary purpose is to pass each other referrals. So there are many different kinds of networks. And, for me personally, I have gotten some amazing connections that have led to amazing relationships and, of course, business, but also relationships. I like to joke around that, my best referral was my wife of 31 years, Elizabeth. I met her in BNI. She was a chapter president near me, and we met in BNI, and definitely my best referral.
Referral ever.
Yeah, best referral ever. Unfortunately, Elizabeth passed away about a year and a half ago, about a year ago. And what a lot of people don't know, because in the last 10 years or so, she was kind of behind the scenes a lot, but she really helped build the company. The director's manuals were written by her. She was the first marketing director for the company. She ran the largest region of BNI. So she had a major impact on BNI in ways that the overwhelming majority of people
So
don't
whatever
know.
we enjoy today, she has had an amazing impact on it.
A major impact on what the organization is today. I'm very grateful for everything she contributed.
Yeah, we are grateful for her too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Donna?
And she loved going to Asia, India. She had never been to Sri Lanka, but she certainly loved the region.
We would have loved to host her too, but then hopefully we
Yeah,
could invite you back, and I think that is how it is, isn't it? Yeah, Donna?
of course. Um, we have heard you speak about the importance of 12-12-12 rule for building a strong network, Dr. Meisner. Would you like to elaborate on it a bit?
Yeah, I first brought up the 12 by 12 by 12 rule in a book I wrote called Networking Like a Pro. It is in both the first and second edition. If someone's picking up a copy of the book, I'd recommend the second edition because I've really expanded it in the second edition. The 12 by 12 by 12 rule is basically when you walk into a room, when you're networking and you walk into a room, what do you look like 12 feet away? Have you dressed the part? Do you look professional? Now, I recognize that under different environments, different dress is appropriate. For example, if I'm speaking in Manhattan or London, I'll be in a suit and tie. That's what's appropriate. If I'm speaking in a more casual environment, I might just have a coat and dress shirt. If I'm speaking in Hawaii, probably a Hawaiian shirt is
Hawaiian
completely
shirt.
appropriate. Yeah. So, you got to understand the context.
Yeah.
My recommendation is generally dress at or above your audience by one notch. Never dress below your audience or never dress below your target market.
Right.
Because you want to make a professional impression. So what do you look like 12 feet away? How do you come across 12 inches away? Now, I'm not suggesting that you get 12 inches from somebody, but how do you look up close?
Yeah.
And not only how do you look, but how do you sound up close? What are you talking about? What I'm really talking about here is attitude. You want to come across with a positive attitude because, I meet a lot of people, especially when times are tough. You get focused on all the problems. So you're meeting somebody and you pretty quickly dive into all the challenges or problems that exist in the world or in the region or whatever. And that's just a mistake. If you really want to network effectively, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And besides, it doesn't do any good to complain to people about how bad things are, because half the people don't care and the other half are glad you're worse off than they are. So, focus on your business, be positive. And then the third thing is, what are the first 12 words you say? Now, first and foremost, you should ask questions of them. You should get somebody else to open up. But once you've done that, then what are the first 12 words you say? You want to say something that passes what a good friend of mine calls the eyebrow test. the
Yeah.
eyebrow test. So
Yeah.
your first 12 words are got to be something that really catches someone's attention. The eyebrow test, it kind of goes like this: if you say something, and the person says, "Explain that," you've you've lost them completely.
Yeah.
You know, the eyebrow test where they scrunch their eyebrows down and they
Yeah.
go, I don't explain that.
I don't
Um,
understand. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, I don't understand. But if you say something and their eyebrows go up like that,
Yeah.
they could say the same words. Explain that.
Yeah.
It could be the exact same words, but you know the difference in that
Correct.
you've confused them
Yeah.
with, and this is a friend of mine, Sam Horn, who wrote the book, Someday is Not a Day of the Week. I love that title.
Right.
And so, you want to pass the eyebrow test. So, I mean, here's an example of a company um, that has I think it's literally 12 words and passes the eyebrow test. It's Ascentive, Asentiv. They say we help people uh, work less, make more, and create referrals for life.
Mm.
When I've seen that, when I've seen them do that, people go, "How do you do that?"
Yeah.
And it's a very effective form of basically, the last version of the 12 by 12 by 12.
Hey, I think that's beautiful. I think we covered
I
two
know.
areas together, isn't it, Donna? We talked
Yeah.
about the eyebrow test and also the 12 by 12 by 12 rule. Amazing. Um,
Yeah, and amazing tips out there for networking itself. And although it's very subtle, how often do we really bring negativity into conversations, and yet that could really kill a relationship, although in that moment we might sound very interested in the conversation.
yeah,
So Yoga, would you like to go for the next question?
sure,
Can
sure.
I just touch upon that, Donna? Because that
Yes,
I
please.
agree with
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
We've done surveys over the years, 2 or 3 times, about what are the top 10 characteristics of a great networker. And
Mm.
in every survey we've ever done, a positive attitude showed up in one of the top two categories. It was either number one or number two. Every
Yeah.
time we've done the survey, people want to do business with people who have a positive attitude, who come across
Yeah.
positively. And one wouldn't think that when I first did that survey, I didn't think positive attitude would be in the top five even,
Yeah.
but it was in the top two. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
amazing.
Dr.
And then I
Ivan,
think
yeah, go
you
ahead, Donna.
you can go ahead.
So, Dr. Evan, a lot of people, for many of us, they say, when we go to an event, how many business cards did we collect and give away? How many people we got in touch with? How quickly could we send our product or service catalog to the other person? But till we joined BNI, and we have heard you say and write extensively about how networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. I think that's a beautifully phrased sentence. Networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. Could you help us understand,
Absolutely.
Dr.?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I call those people that just go to business meetings and pass out cards and collect cards. I call them the card dealer strategy. They're just passing out cards. And I've written a great article. You can find it if you go to ivanmeisner.com. Do a search on Barley, Barley. My co-author in Networking Like a Pro has this great metaphor that he uses, that if it worked, where just going to a meeting and passing out a lot of cards and collecting cards, if that worked, then this strategy would work. And he tells
Yeah.
this story. He doesn't actually do it. It's a joke, but he has this beautiful dog named Barley. And it's just this good golden colored dog, incredibly friendly. He said, "Look, if that technique would work, what I would do is I would put a little cloth saddle on Barley, and on one side I'd put in a bunch of my business cards with a little note that says, 'Take one,' and on the other side I would put a little there'd be a pouch and say, 'Place your card here.'" And he said, I would just send Barley out into the room. I could send him out with 200 people, and he'd come back. There'd be no cards left, and there'd be all kinds of cards in the saddle. He said, but clearly that's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We
that's
go
right.
around passing out our business cards, expecting to get some sale, when
Yeah,
in fact networking is really about making a connection with people. And
correct.
you may want me. You're probably going to ask the question about the VCP process, but
Yeah,
when we get there,
we will get there.
this is the reason you network. You network to work through that process. You don't network just to pass out cards.
Yeah. Correct. That's true. And also, I remember you delivered a keynote speech, and you were saying you asked the question from people, how many of you are here to sell something? Almost everybody raised their hands.
Yeah.
And then, how many of you are here to buy something? And not even one. So I
No,
think that,
and there were 900 people in that audience,
yeah, there we
and
go.
everybody was
Yeah.
there wanting to sell. Nobody was there to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So we will
absolutely.
be at the end of the day, we will be collecting 800 cards and going home, whereas
Yeah,
nobody came to build a relationship, but only
yeah,
to just give away cards and send emails and just to tick a tick a checkbox and move on. So
right.
beautiful, right? I think next up
And
is the VCP. Yeah,
yeah, and I think adding to that, Yoga, that is where BNI really changed the way we think, because it has the foundation of givers gain, whereas in a usual business meeting we would enter it where we would want to sell, but there with the philosophy of givers gain, it really changes your whole perspective, because you're entering the meeting with the intentions of giving someone and helping someone out there. So
yeah,
that itself is helping you to have these genuine connections with your group of people.
correct,
uh, I think
correct.
Farhaz also has a question. Do we have to go for that, or?
Shall we go to the next question and then get all the questions together of the audience?
Sure,
Yeah.
of course. Dr. Meissner, visibility and credibility leads to profitability. How could you, how could you as a person attain visibility and establish credibility?
Yeah, VCP process is the foundation of everything I teach. If people don't get this right, then they're not going to get networking right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that it's not a formula; it's a process.
Yeah.
So it's not V plus C equals P. You didn't say that, by the way, but I'm just pointing it out. It's
Yeah.
not V plus C equals P. It's
No.
you go from visibility to credibility to profitability. So
Correct.
visibility is where people know who you are and what you do. And that's so important. People have to know who you are before you can really go deep in networking with them.
Yeah.
So once you get to visibility, then you can move towards credibility, and credibility is where people know who you are. They know what you do. They know you're good at it, and they're willing to build this relationship, a professional relationship with you. Uh, then once you move from credibility, then you have an opportunity to move to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to pass referrals on an ongoing basis. It takes time to work through the VCP process. And so when I say you don't go to networking meetings to sell, people say, well, then why go there? You go there to work your way through the VCP process, to
Yeah.
meet new people who you've never met before, to start to create a little visibility with them. You start to create visibility with them, to meet people you know already, and to move deeper into credibility, or to, if you're at credibility, to move that gradually from credibility to profitability, where they're willing to refer you. So when you meet people, you got to ask yourself, where am I with this person? Am I at
Yeah.
visibility? Am I at credibility? Or am I at profitability?
Right.
And it changes the dialogue that you have with somebody. Because if you meet someone for the first time and you're trying to close a deal, or you want them to come see a speech that you do, you're doing it too early. But if you do that at credibility, people are like, yeah, okay, I'll come. Now, if you want them to refer their clients, you better be at profitability with
Correct.
them,
Yeah.
where you've got this reciprocal relationship. So
Yeah.
you really work your network differently depending on where you are with people in the VCP process.
Amazing.
Amazing. So, just to touch upon, I think this is the most important learning we have had in BNI over the past year. So, Dr. Meisner, so now, So when one person is working hard to have the visibility that he has, now we can take over a position and serve the chapter, like whether it's the lead visitor host or whether it's the president or the treasurer. So we do that, and then we have one-to-one meetings with each other to learn more about it, attend other meetings. So we know how to do that, and then how do we move from that process to the credibility process? What are some tips and tricks to establish credibility?
Yeah, well, it takes time,
Yeah.
and what you need are touch points. You need to stay connected with the
Mm.
person over time, because if your network is a mile wide and only an inch deep, it'll never
Yeah.
be very powerful. So you
Right.
need to have a network that is both wide and in places deep. Now, how do you get deep? It's really about building a relationship with
Right.
people. So one of the things I really recommend is that you do regular one-to-ones with people, where you sit down with them over a cup of coffee or tea, or lunch, and just go a little bit deeper in building a relationship
Mm.
with those people. One of the things, and well, let's first talk about why that's important, and then I'll give you a
Yeah.
couple of techniques.
Yes, please. Yeah.
We did a survey in Europe of an entire region of BNI, and we asked questions about people who did one-to-ones. We found that people who did one-to-one a month compared to people who did four one-to-ones a month. So one a month versus one a week. That
Yeah.
the people who did four one-to-ones a month gave twice as many referrals as the people who only did
Yeah.
one-to-one a month. Now, here's the really valuable thing, is that the people who did four one-to-ones a month also received twice as many referrals as the people who only did one. So I tell BNI members, I tell people who want to build their business through network, you want to double the number of referrals you're getting?
Yeah.
Do one-to-one a week.
Yeah.
You know, that's, that's not a guess. That's not anecdotal. There's hard data that shows that meeting with people and going a little bit deeper in understanding who they are and how you can refer them and how they can refer you makes a world of difference. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do in these one-to-ones. I recommend that you have them a little bit structured. And so in several of my books and in BNI, we call it the gains exchange,
Mm.
where
Yeah.
you share with each other your goals, your accomplishments, your interests, your networks, and your skills. It's an acronym.
Yeah.
Gains, goals,
Yeah.
accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. So I would sit down with somebody and I would tell them your goals, and then have them tell you theirs, and
Yeah.
then some of your accomplishments, and then theirs. And you go back and forth
Yeah.
and go through this. And it's a great way of just getting a really good overview of who that person is that you're meeting and talking to.
Correct.
So that's an important way to move the relationship along.
Correct. Correct. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Beautiful, actually. I love the fact that you didn't say that it doesn't have to be wide, but it it has to be wide, and at times it
Yeah,
has to be
has to be
deep.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I have people. I got into a disagreement with a friend years ago who ran an online network, and he said it's all about how many people you have in your contacts. That's what it's all about.
Right.
And I'm like, well, yes, that's important, but it's also how deep
Deep
those
it is.
Yeah.
relationships are. And he absolutely disagreed with me, which, and that was probably about 10 years ago. His online platform is no longer in business, by the way, and we have tripled our size. So
Yeah.
I think it is, in fact, both. You know, the old expression, I'm sure you probably have heard this before. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's either one. I don't think it's
Okay.
what you know or who you know. It's how
And
well you know each other that
okay.
really counts.
Right.
I mean, the real question is, I have some great contacts in my telephone, but the real question is, what would happen if I picked up the phone and called them?
Mm.
Would they take my call?
Yeah.
And if they did, if I asked them for a favor, would they be willing to do the favor?
Yeah.
So it's not, in my mind, it's not just who you know, it's how well you know each other. because it's if you have a need and you reach out to them and you know each other well enough that you've built a relationship and you ask for something, they're going to be more than willing to help.
True. Beautiful. Amazing, actually. Amazing learning. So, just to add on to that, now we have built visibility by doing whatever we do. We are part of BNI. We have one-to-ones. We call people. We build a relationship, and then we build credibility. And I think it's also we have heard you say that heard people say not to ask, go with the intention of giving and supporting. I think that is also part of the building process of
Yeah.
trust and credibility, where we don't go to give but then we go to not to take but then give.
Yeah.
Great, but then when it comes to profitability we have to ask.
Yeah, it's okay to ask then. What
Yeah.
happens is people use the old excuse, it never hurts to ask, right? Well, I
Yeah.
think you're wrong. With people who say that, I think they're wrong.
Correct.
It does hurt to ask
Right.
when there's no relationship.
Yeah.
When there is a good relationship, when you're at credibility or definitely at profitability, then you've earned the right
To ask.
in the relationship
Yeah.
to ask.
Yeah.
And so the best way to get started is, as you said, to give. You go to give first. That helps to build the relationship. I mean, think about a good friend that you might have. Some of your best friends, some of my best friends, are people who gave to me their time, their suggestions, their willingness to help, and they became friends because they first wanted to help me in some way or be there for me in some way. They didn't want something from me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very similar in business relationships, that you want to think about it in terms of, how do you build a friendship? Well, how do you build a long-term client relationship?
Yeah.
A lot of similarity.
Correct, correct. And also, I would bring the example of a friend in our chapter, Sashila Algama, who whenever he had a one-to-one, whenever we had a one-to-one, the first thing that he usually says is, "How do I help you? I'm here to
Yeah.
listen to your story so that I can help you." And
Yeah.
what
They're
happens
magic
is
words. How can I help you?
magic
Magic
words,
words.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And for me it was very new because he's a new member who has picked it up from listening to you reading and all of that, and now he asks how I can help you, and that's beautiful. And what has happened in the chapter is everybody who has had a one-to-one with him now asks the same question. So
Yeah.
the idea of givers gain, I think, is cultivated by simple acts like that. I am here
Yeah.
to help you, so how do I help you? Yeah, and then it
Listen,
becomes.
I absolutely agree with that. And let me tell you a story I haven't told very much. Um, Earlier this year, I was doing a live radio interview in the United States. It was a live
Right.
interview.
Okay.
And somebody asked me a question, and I said, well, one of the things you want to ask is, how can I help you? And he actually disagreed with me on air. We were live on air, and he disagreed with me. He's like, no, 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 that old adage, that doesn't work anymore. Somebody will just assume that you're trying to get something out of them, and you're not being authentic. I said,
Yeah.
well, there are ways of doing it that are in fact very authentic. He said, no, no, I disagree. So I didn't want to argue with him.
Yeah.
At the end of the interview, it's a true story. At the end of the interview, the interview was over, and he and I were talking for a couple more minutes. And I said to him, so what other kinds of people are you looking to interview? And he named, certain categories, and then he named one or two very specific people. He named individuals.
Right.
And I said, oh, they're friends of mine. I know them. Would you like me to introduce you?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my goodness, you know them. Yes, would you introduce me?
Right.
I said, yeah, sure. Let me introduce them, see if they're willing to do an interview. So I literally hung up, emailed my friends. Remember I said it's not
Yeah.
who's in your contact database. Will they
Correct.
take your call?
Yeah.
That's the key.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the
I
key.
emailed the two of them. Within the hour, they both responded with, yes, we'd be happy
Wow.
to do it too. So I
Wow.
reached out to him and I said, hey, they both said, yes, here's their assistant's name. It's okay to reach out to them. And he said, thank you so much. And I said,
You didn't want to let it go.
yeah, I said, and because I said to him on the interview, you don't have to use those words. It's the
Yeah.
sentiment.
Yeah.
And I said to him,
Yeah.
And that's how can I help you actually works. And he wrote me back a one-word email, touche.
There is
Touche.
no way to argue with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
there's
you
no
go.
way to argue with
No
that.
way to argue
And
with
so
that. Yeah,
as
beautiful,
long as you're
beautiful.
doing it from an authentic place, the words don't even matter. You don't have to say, how can I help you? I said, who else are you looking to interview? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Jonah?
And something that I would like to add there is that sometimes, as Dr. Meissner said, when we have one to ones, we deepen our relationships, sometimes beyond the business relationships. For instance, in our chapter itself, there was an instant where one chapter member's husband was a doctor and another chapter member's son was sick and was hospitalized. So there was a huge connection that was built in terms of which is going beyond the business relationships.
Correct.
So that was, he said that that was the best referral that he got from BNI, not knowing the doctor, because that helped to save the life of his son.
Yeah. Yeah,
Amazing.
very true. And I meet many people who have told me they've created friendships that'll last a
Yeah,
lifetime.
yeah.
And I've heard some just amazing stories from people who have had personal experiences because of the friendships that they've developed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very true,
Amazing.
very true. Donna,
You want me to
I
go
think
to
we
the next question?
should we speak about givers gain a little bit more. We have spoken about it enough, but Donna, would you like to ask that question?
Yeah, sure. Well, Dr. Meissner, giver's gain, of course, is a core value of BNI. In a business environment where we focus on what we get, what is our profitability, is giver's gain philosophy a success strategy?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, when you think about it, BNI has, we've had 36 years of consecutive growth. 36 years.
Wow.
It's hard to find a company that has year on year grown for 36 years. Even during COVID, we have
Yeah.
grown as an organization. So yes, I believe giver's gain is a philosophy to build an effective philosophy to build a business. But giver's gain is more than a phrase to me. It's a way of living one's life.
Hmm.
It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. And I think that's what we're trying to do in BNI is change the way the world does business with this philosophy of giver's gain.
That's true. I think it is concepts like this that has to be spoken of, and as you rightly pointed out, when we change, that's the only way the world could change, rather than empty words or ideas or slogans. Beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing. And shall we go to a few questions and then come back?
Yeah.
I think we should answer a few questions. Let's take Suganti Periasamy asks, please suggest how could a positive person who is an introvert initiate networking during the first few meetings without being overwhelmed?
Yeah, listen, that's a great question. And let me start with a surprise answer. And you can find this on my blog, OMG. Well, go to ivanmeisner.com and I'll tell you the name of the blog in a moment. I About 10, 15 years ago, I was home with my wife. We lived in LA then, and our kids were at school, and we were having this really nice dinner, my wife and I, and it was, it was like one of the first times where the kids weren't home for dinner, and it was nice, just the two of us. And I said something, I don't even remember the topic, but I said, "Oh, honey, you know me, I'm such an extrovert." And she looked at me and she said, "No, you're not." I'm like, "What? What? Of course I'm an extrovert." And she's like, "Yeah, whatever you say, honey, if you want to believe I'm an extrovert." I'm like, "Really? Are you serious? Look, I run the world's largest networking organization. I'm an
Yeah.
extrovert." And she's like, "Okay, if that's what you think." And I'm like, "What do you mean if that's what I think?" She says, well, I'm reading this book called The Introvert and Extrovert in Love. Now my late wife was a total extrovert. I mean, she was an extrovert. And so she starts naming things that are different between an introvert and an extrovert. I'm like, okay, that's a little like me, and that's a little like me. And then she said what, really hit home. She said, introverts like to recharge their batteries by being alone. They don't want to be around people. Family, that's fine, but they don't want to be around people. Maybe close friends, but they hide and recharge their batteries. And that's
Right.
totally me. And so I'm like, well, yeah, that's me, but I'm not an introvert. And she's like, okay, whatever you say.
Okay, what do you
So
say?
now I'm mad. So I go into my home office and I get on the computer and I find a website that will test whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I take this test and it pops up and it says, congratulations, Ivan Misner. You are an introvert who is a situational extrovert,
Extrovert.
which means, and it went on to describe it. If you're talking about your topic, something that you feel like you know really well, you
And
come
passionate
across as an
about.
extrovert. If you're with friends, you may come across as an extrovert. Otherwise, you're an introvert. Go apologize to your wife. Okay, it didn't say that last part.
That did say that, I'm sure.
It didn't say that, but I did, and then it hit me, and I'm gonna answer her question here, but it hit me the kind of network that I created. If I were an extrovert, I would have created a network where it was a big event and I could walk around and meet a lot of people and mix and mingle. No, I created a network. There was a smaller group. We met weekly. It was about going deep, building relationships. It was an epiphany for me, an epiphany that the very network I created was really aimed for introverts as well as extroverts. Now,
Yes.
let's talk about what you can do as an introvert. One of the techniques that I use that has helped me, when I go to a networking meeting, I ask someone to introduce me around, somebody who's a member of the group. And I'll say, hey, would you mind introducing me around? Now, what I never used to say, it's because I'm nervous meeting people, but I am. I'm nervous meeting people too. And so to just walk up to a stranger, it's uncomfortable. So I ask someone to introduce me around, and they'll walk me around and introduce me to people. And it makes it so much easier. So for the woman who asked that question, go to networking meetings, have people introduce you around. The other thing that you can do is look for people who are standing. If you're standing face to face, is a God view looking down. It's hard to strike up a conversation, but look for people who are standing askew like this. Okay, person here. It's easier to walk up and have a conversation, or like a U, where there's an opening. So look at the room, look for openings in the way people are standing. Slide in. You don't have to say, hi, my name is so-and-so. But just be there for a moment and people will introduce themselves. So there are little techniques that you can use. By the way, extroverts are not necessarily great networkers. And here's why.
Right.
An introvert is, they're a little quieter and they're good at listening. A good networker has 2 ears and 1 mouth and uses them both proportionately.
Yeah.
So an introvert is good at listening. An extrovert loves talking. And what's their favorite subject?
Themselves.
Themselves.
Yeah.
And so what you want is you want to have, if you're an extrovert, you have to learn how to listen. If you're an introvert, you have to learn how to meet people effectively. So both can be good at networking, but they do take different skills.
Yeah.
And by the way, the blog that I was talking about, I love my assistant. She's so good. She
She's
actually
amazing.
texted me
Beautiful.
while we're talking. She said, the blog is OMG, I'm an introvert. Thank you, Dana. I appreciate it. The blog is OMG, I'm an introvert. And for BNI members, you can go to podcast number 97, which is OMG, I'm an introvert.
OMG, I'm an introvert is the blog.
Yeah.
I think we all should read that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That actually goes against everything that we know, everything that we have been taught of. Like if you are an
Yeah.
extrovert, you're an amazing networker. But then I think
Yeah.
what you said is true. We speak a
Yeah.
lot about us and we don't listen. We can't build a connection when we speak about only
Right.
ourselves.
And you know, a good
Right.
networker is like an interviewer, like the two of you. You're asking me questions and you're allowing me to elaborate. That's what a good networker is. You know, when you meet people, you get them to open up and ask questions. And by the way, when you go to either one, under the search button, just type in OMG, I'm an introvert, and you'll find either the podcast or the blog.
Sure. So what we
Yeah.
will
Thanks.
do is we will also tag the article
Oh,
on the video. So
great.
I think that'll be
Thank you.
perfect. A regular guest on our podcast asks a very important question. Nadi Balasuriya asks, how can one progress to the profitability stage with someone who you have previously had a negative encounter with? Oh, that's a very important,
Well, I think
very
it's
interesting
important.
question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a complex answer. I'll try to make it brief. It's very important that you have communication with the person about the negative encounter. I believe clear, open, honest communication is the best way to deal with problems. I say this, and the story is long. I'll make it really short. I'll say this because of experience I've had. I knew two women who had a very negative experience with one another. I said, you know, you need to talk this through. She asked me if I would be there for the conversation.
Okay.
I said, yes, I was there for the conversation. It was a total misunderstanding what took place.
Right.
And it made sense why it was a misunderstanding. It was like,
Right.
oh my goodness, I see now why that happened. And
Yeah.
so you got to start by having a conversation. And the conversation cannot be, you know, accusatory. It can't be like, well, you did this to me, because then people just get defensive. So you
Yeah.
just talk
Correct.
about your experience and how it made you feel, and then listen to the response. And look, if they don't take responsibility, that's not going to be a good business relationship.
Correct.
And that's where my strategy of addition by subtraction comes into play. That
Yeah.
is, if you want to grow your business, sometimes you remove people from the relationships you have.
Correct.
And so you may not want to continue that
Yeah.
relationship. And
Yeah.
remember this, and I don't think I actually say it in Who's in Your Room, but we're working on the second edition, and this phrase will be in the second
Right.
edition. You can't talk your way out of something you behaved your way into. And so if you've done something to hurt some other person, you know, apologizing is a start.
Yeah.
But the only way you can really make a difference is to behave your way out of something
Back.
that you behaved your way into. And
Right.
if you have had a negative experience and they're not behaving their way out of it, then it's addition by subtraction.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So words are a start, and it's not the solution. That's
Yeah,
where we
Yeah.
start, but then it's the behavior that has
It's a
to
behavior.
back
yeah.
up. Yeah,
You know, the
beautiful.
older
Yeah.
I get, the less I believe in words and the more I believe in behaviors. Now, words are powerful. So I believe in words,
Yeah,
but behaviors are even more powerful.
even more powerful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. There is somebody who's asking an important question about your idea to build BNI. Dilrukshi Rajapaksa asks, um, Dr. Ivan, when you initially got the BNI idea in
Yeah.
1985, many, many years ago, like the light bulb moment, what were the next steps
Yes.
you took? I'm sure she has a brilliant idea and she wants to know how to proceed with it. So, yeah,
Yeah. I like the light bulb moment. I call my light bulb moment the Brody moment. So
right,
let me give you context.
right,
Have you seen the movie Jaws?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay. So towards the end of Jaws, Sheriff Brody walks into the wheelhouse where the captain is, because he just saw the shark. I mean, the
yeah,
shark comes out, this big thing.
right,
He saw the shark. He walks into the wheelhouse with the captain, and he says to the captain, "We're going to need a bigger boat."
yeah,
So I remember my Brody moment,
right,
my light bulb moment was December of 1985. BNI was 11 and a half, 12 months old. We started in January of 85. And that moment for me was, I always take time around the new year to reflect. where do I want to be in 5 years? How was last year compared to my business plan? And that year, it was like, what the heck just happened? This was not in my business plan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to open one network to, help my friends get business and help me get business. And I ended up opening 20 chapters of BNI
Wow.
without a plan. And so that was my Brody moment where it made me realize we don't teach this in colleges and universities. Business people, they go out, start a business, they have no idea how to build a referral-based business. And it hit me that, people needed to learn how to do this, and we needed to provide system and structure to do it. So what I did at that point was I read a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And it's about how do you scale your business? How do you learn how to work on your business, not in your business?
Yeah.
And I took that plan. I created a plan to scale BNI over the next 30, 40 years. And from that plan, using the E-Myth as sort of the um, baseline strategy, the ideas in there, I just did what it said. And I had some success. Hope that
Amazing.
answers the question.
Perfect, I believe.
Wow.
Perfect. I
Perfect.
think I
Yeah.
think it's also the idea that you said no to the second chapter while building the first chapter, and
Yeah,
then
I
you said,
actually did. I said, no,
yeah,
this isn't what I do.
yeah,
And,
that's
and they
right.
talked me into it, and I did it.
Yeah, yeah, and then it grew into 20, and then now it has grown into 10,000 chapters around 70 countries.
Yeah,
Absolutely amazing. And it's also the fact that you set that target, and you said I might not even live to see it, but then
yeah.
you have achieved
Oh,
it many.
you guys have done your homework. That's it.
Yeah,
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 I
we
did.
did.
It was in 1986. I wanted to calculate how many chapters could be, and I actually have someday. So I went to the library because this was before Monsieur Google. Google
Yeah,
didn't exist.
exist.
So I
Yeah,
went to the library, checked out books. So, I looked at reference books, did calculations, how many cities, what are the populations, and I calculated that
Yeah.
someday BNI could have over 10,000 chapters. And I remember I told a friend of mine this, and this was June of 1986. So we were 18 months old. I said to him, I think BNI someday could have 10,000 chapters. And he smiled and he looked at me and he said, and how many chapters do you have now, Ivan? I said, well, 30. He said, you have 30 groups and you think you can have 10,000. I said, yeah, actually, I do. I think it's possible. And in December of last year, BNI crossed the 10,000 chapter mark.
congratulations. What an amazing vision, and
Congratulations. Amazing.
how hard you have worked to get there. I think, and it has helped all of us, the members and also non-members who come into trainings and see us speak and read your blog posts and interacted with the BNI member. That's amazing. That's beautiful. We are
Thank you.
reaching for the last 6 minutes, so I think we will have two more questions, and we will go to one question from the audience. Dr. Meisner, we have heard people say the golden rule. We have been taught about it. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And we have heard you talk about a platinum rule. A friend of yours who have spoken about it and written about it. So, how do we implement the platinum rule to business, Dr. Ivan?
Yeah, the platinum rule is a powerful rule, and it was the concept was written by a really good friend of mine, Tony Alessandra. And Tony and I actually did a book together with Don Lyons called Room Full of Referrals. So the platinum rule, the golden rule is, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The platinum rule is, do unto others as they would want done to them. In other words, treat people the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. And that's really powerful, particularly as it comes to referrals. So a friend of mine once gave 2 different referrals to 2 different people. And as a thank you, they were valuable referrals. As a thank you, the one person gave her, as a thank you gift, a beautiful blue scarf, very expensive silk scarf. And she said it was very nice of her, but she said she doesn't wear scarves and she doesn't like blue. So
Right.
she said, I could totally see this woman wearing this scarf because
Yeah.
it's her style.
Yeah.
Uh, and she said, another person gave me a book of Greek vacation places in Greece,
Right.
along with a real simple calendar to hang up with vacation spots in Greece. She said that was so much more fantastic for me because I'd always wanted to go to Greece and I hadn't been to
Great.
Greece. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't the price, it was
Yeah.
that one person thought about how would this impact her?
Oh,
And the other person just saw something that she liked, treated
from
her the way
his
she wanted to be
perspective.
treated versus treated the person the way
Yeah.
they wanted to be treated.
Yeah.
That's the platinum rule. And it's a brilliant rule from Tony
It is.
Emerson.
It is.
Yeah,
In the sense, like we have heard about it, we act like that, but then to know it and operate like that is a gift, I believe, and it
Yeah,
directly relates to givers gain. So it's beautiful.
exactly. Yeah.
Donna,
yeah,
Donna, I think all of us are in the process of a recession, and you are one person
of
who says
course,
you refuse. Uh, there is a recession. So would you like to ask the question?
of course.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Meissner refused to participate in a recession, is the attitude you have tried to cultivate in all BNI members. And during a pandemic, the BNI members have generated over 18 billion in business within them.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Well, I really think that it begins with the belief that there are opportunities and then creating a plan and taking action. I think hope is more powerful than fear. And the truth is, your network, BNI, is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear. And when you have your network gather around you to support you and help you, amazing things can happen. But it's got to start, it all has to start like right here. And it's about viewing life through the right lens. I love astronomy. And when I look through my telescope, sometimes I look through, like if you look at the moon, it's so bright your eyes hurt. It's almost like being in a dark room, flipping on the lights, and your eyes hurt. So if I just put a different filter or a different lens on my telescope, the moon jumps out at me. You can see the craters. It's almost three-dimensional. You can almost feel like you can touch it. And that's what life is, I think, to a large extent. I think we have no control over, we have little control over what happens to us, but we have total control of how we respond to what happens to us. And so I urge people to look through life with a lens that helps you find solutions and not a lens that helps you obsess about
Over
the problems.
problems.
And I think that's why
Amazing.
BNI has been successful for
That's
36
true.
years.
That's true. That's true. And we have heard you tell stories of so many different people who have said, no, we refuse to participate in a recession
Yeah, yeah,
and they have gone on to build their businesses and wine, a company, a brewery that went on to build hand sanitizers and a garment that went on to build masks and so on and so forth.
yeah.
A real estate person who had a button on his pocket who said, I refuse to participate in a recession. Absolutely amazing. I think it is people like that that make a difference, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, great,
Yeah,
great. Donna, I think it's time to conclude. We have 60 minutes just passed away just like that. I think we should bring this to a
absolutely.
conclusion. Would you like to share your concluding thoughts, please?
Absolutely. And we are so much honored, Dr. Meissner, because this is the start of our season three. I don't think there is a better way, any other way of starting to have a global icon like you in our podcast. And also there were
Mm.
so many questions and I don't think we have time to unfortunately deal with everything. So thank you for your tremendous service to the world out there by starting BNI and then authoring and co-authoring many books and sharing your knowledge with the world. So we are wishing you more power to you to keep serving the world.
Only a
Thank
few
you. And
people
if
in
I
the
could just
world
leave, if I could just leave
talk
you with
to.
one last thought, I think
Yeah.
that BNI is not only a great way to get business, it's an even better way to do business because we're doing business within this philosophy of giver's
True.
gain.
True, very
Thanks to
true.
both
Dr.
of you for
Meisner,
having me
thank you
on.
very much. Only a few people have been able to, through their words, inspiration, and ideas, change the world. And I think you have done it for many of us. And thank you very much. We wish you continued success, and may your ideas spread as wildfire, much more than what it is today, and help many more people, because you have the vision of going to moon, and you have actually taken many people to the moon, and you want to go to space. We wish you the best with everything you do, and thank you very much for joining us this evening and helping us learn much more about networking skills.
Thank you both. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
you.
very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.